Hi, and welcome to the Deliciously Feminine series. I'm your host, Nicole Elissa, and today we have a very special guest. Her name is Elissa Steadman. I'm excited to have her. Elissa is a best-selling author, speaker, and relationship expert. Welcome, Elissa.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation.
I know, me too. So, for the audience, just to let you know, this conversation is going to be all about really how to step into the next level you, like this new brand version of yourself. This series has been all about how to let go of a stress and feeling like bogged down to really creating a life that brings you pleasure. So, how do you do that? Right? That's the exact conversation that we're going to have today.
Damn, that's good.
I know, right? It's amazing. So, in your definition, Lisa, what is next level you?
So I love this conversation because I used to call it my future self. Like your future self knows what's best for you and is kind of breadcrumb trailing you in the direction of your dreams. And then I realized that sometimes we don't often think we get to future self because we're in constant evolution. So I've tweaked it, and now what I'm talking about is next level self. So next level you. And what this means for me and for the women that I speak to and work with and mentor and inspire is we all are works in progress. We all are in evolution, and there's actually nothing standing between where we are today and every single thing that we want, whether what we want is more love, more money, more health, a smaller gene size, like all of it. It's all actually available to us now when we listen to what our next level self is whispering to us. Our next level self knows better and is really saying things like, this is the direction we need to go in. Don't worry about how crazy it sounds. You can have these big dreams, and I'm going to show you day by day, step by step, how to be it, how to embody it, and how to take action.
You know what was like first question that came up? I was like, I can already hear like everybody's like that's like, oh, but you don't know my story, right? You don't know why I'm here and how difficult it would be for me to get there. Do you have some sort of advice that could really help women really see themselves as capable of
Yeah.
moving outside of the story and moving outside of the situation that they've gone through? Because we understand that it's been difficult. We all go through really hard times. It's just a matter of really connecting to that bigger vision. So, do you have a word of advice here?
Yes. Breathe and believe. And I say this because it's really easy to stand on the other side of the personal growth and be like, I've done it, woohoo! Well, guess what? There's more coming. So, let's never get too cocky. Let's really be humble about our journey. And as someone who this year I lost 20 pounds and lost a parent, my mother passed away. The year before, I inherited a kid with 9 days' notice. So, the year before, in my journey of next level self, I have left jobs, I have left relationships, I have had health challenges. And so I don't stand here from an armchair point of view. I very much am about walking my talk. And the thing that I know to be true is that those whispers that we get when we are really still and quiet and allow ourselves to tune in, those whispers are that next level self that's saying, what if? And maybe that what if is, what if we finally were done with our body drama? Or what if we finally let the right love in rather than chasing all the wrong kind of love? What if we allowed ourselves to pursue that dream that we've told ourselves we don't have enough money for, or we're not smart enough, or we're too old, or we're too fat, or whatever it is? What if? And from that point, it's really breathing and believing through the discomfort of, but that's not for me. How can I do that? I'm scared today. I want to hide under the covers. Like, nobody's smarter or more talented or more worthy of our dream life than we are. So it's really about cultivating the courage to listen to that next level voice that knows what's here for your highest good and being willing to take action daily to get there.
I love that. So, how does one start to cultivate that courage? Are there any specific steps?
Yes. So the first thing is, I say, because people have said, how have you written best-selling books? How have you gotten on TV? How'd you meet your husband? How'd you inherit a baby without having to give birth? I'm like, well, that one wasn't a choice. But the others, what I always say is, I'm no luckier, more, like, there's nothing that sets me apart from anyone else, and this is for all of us. So the first piece of this is, if you have the dream, the only thing that's left is the do. And the do can be daunting and debilitating and audacious, but dream plus do is how you make your dreams come true. It's got to be the dream plus the do. So really connecting to the dream, as big and scary and comfort zone pushing as it can be. I mean, I remember when my dream was to write a book. I'd never written a book. I didn't know the first thing about writing a book, but the idea was downloaded into me, and it was noisy enough and persistent enough from my next level self that I was like, I gotta shut up and write this book and get a book deal and go on a book tour. And I didn't know how to do any of that, but my next level self said, you can do this. Let's just take this day by day. I remember in the beginning, I was a really shy writer who wanted to hide behind my computer. I didn't want to be out at the face of anything or be known for anything. I just wanted people to come read my book and, go on their merry way. And somewhere along the journey, I really owned and honored the fact that the message that I had to share through my multiple best-selling books wasn't just about reading a book, closing it, and moving on with your life. It was about connecting to women every day and being in the trenches with them, inspiring them and motivating them and helping them push past barriers so they can consistently take the steps so that they can live the dream life. The dream life doesn't happen overnight. It's really daily dreaming and doing.
I love that. I feel like a huge part of this, Lisa, has to do with trust, right?
Huge.
Right? How do you trust the unknown? Like, how do you trust your vision? How do you trust that as you're moving forward, you're going to get there?
Well, trust is a funny thing. It's like a muscle. So the more you work it out, the more you exercise it, the more you are one with the trust, the more you get comfortable with it. I remember I was doing a live event, and I'd never done a live event before that was all my own. Like, women were flying in from all over the country to see me for 2 days. And I remember I woke up on day one, and I started to freak out. I was like, what are we going to do for 2 days? Meanwhile, I had an agenda, but I was so suddenly the enormity of people counting on me was almost more than I could bear. And I just remember I paused and had a moment with myself where I said, you know what, I really trust that what's going to come through is going to come through. And it's those beautiful moments that allow you to keep going. But when you haven't exercised your trust muscle, you can look for all signs that things are going to go wrong. Like when you're looking for love and you walk around going, I don't trust that love is available for me. I trust that men are jerks, that they won't love me back. I trust that they're going to cheat on me. Well, guess what your reality is going to show you? That version, because you don't trust the other version. And this is something that I see a lot with women. When the version of love that they deeply want but they don't believe is available for them shows up, they run the other way from it. It's just too big and scary to receive. And the only thing that needs to shift in that equation is the willingness to believe and receive it. But often that's the biggest block we have.
So many questions. So many questions that came up. So let's see, which one do I start with? I feel like trust and receiving are very heavily related. And it's very difficult sometimes. I hear it, women how do I start to receive? I don't know. There comes a moment where you start to even sabotage it, kind of like you said, you get the vision, the man comes in and you're like, oh no, this is a lot, I don't know if I can receive this, and then you run the other way. How can a woman start to exercise her trust and receiving muscle? What practices can you share with the audience that would be really helpful for them?
Well, in my experience, it really starts with creating the experience for yourself. So before love or weight loss or money or whatever the external result you want can come in, you need to create the experience for yourself. So if you're looking for love, it really starts with redefining what you want love to feel like. So when I was going through this, because I dated every Mr. Wrong I could find, I mean, literally, the guy would show up, I would go, "You're completely wrong for me. Sign me up." And then I would spend the whole relationship banging my head against the wall going, why isn't this working? And being angry about it and blamey and then shamey. And when I decided to be done with that, nothing externally changed. What changed was internal. And literally every morning and every night for every day, I mean, within 60 days, I met my husband. I don't make those guarantees, but what I mean is when you're ready, it starts with creating the experience for yourself. So I would wake up in the morning and say, love is, and then just start filling in the blank of what I knew I wanted it to be. And in the beginning, it was like, oh, that's never going to happen for me. I'm a size 14 in a size 0 city, and who's going to show up and give me all that? But by creating it within and going, love is available, love is abundant, love is fulfilling, love wants me too, I started to feel that energy in my body. And everywhere I went, I met people, not just men, women too, who matched that vision and that feeling, because now I was aware of it. I could connect to it rather than looking for proof of the assholes. And so when my husband and I met, we met at a bar in Los Angeles, and he was sitting at the next table, and he was shorter than what I thought I wanted, and he was younger, and I'd sworn off younger guys, and all these stories I had in my head. Because of how he instantly made me feel the moment we started talking, I was like, oh, okay, I've asked for this, and I don't know what this means yet, but I'm going to go with it.
I love that. You were like, oh, this feels good, right? Like,
no games, no chase, no quest. Like, called me the day after we met, like just called me on my shit when I would show up with my shit. Like it was. And instead of running because he was challenging me, I was like, well, there's a man who has healthy boundaries and knows what he deserves, and shame on me if I step on him again. Because I tested in the beginning because it was too much to receive, and it was a process of being open to receiving.
Yeah. And I find that a lot of the times, I love your story, by the way. Like, I love that because you are open, right? And that's like a really important piece of it. You have to be open. And and consistently be open and focus on your vision, right? It's not just like, oh, I made my dream board. Oh, I wrote my list, and then I forget about it and just go off like into like, men are jerks, right? You have to see it, nurture it. So I love that. The piece around is that I notice that a lot of times when we have these conversations, honestly, what happens is that a lot of women are like, how does my thought reflect my reality? Number one, right? It's like, what's the correlation there? Like a lot of they say like, or I used to say like, this is just the way it is. This is just the way how life is. And once you start to see life show you with certain situations that don't feel necessarily like 100% like, hell yes for you, you might be like, well, it's kind of like, is this what I deserve? Is this all I get? Right? So how does a person really start to see for their own selves like, hey, my thoughts are part of this creation? And own that full on.
The clearest way to do it is to look at the things you've consistently attracted into your life that don't work.
I know.
Whether it's money problems or man problems or roommate problems or health problems. I mean, the common denominator is us, and that can be devastating, but it's also freeing. Like, I had to get clear, and every time, I mean, like, I am humbled by the fact that every time it's me in the way. I inherited my husband's sister's kid with 9 days notice and struggled in that relationship for a really long time. You know what was in the way? Me. The minute I shifted, she shifted, because I was the model. She was matching my model, and my model was, I don't want a baby, stay over there, don't love me, this is too hard, you're someone else's kid. And the minute I went, hey, you may be someone else's kid, but I am here to love and support you and nurture you because your mom isn't here, is the minute she shifted. It's the same with men, it's the same with our relationship with our body, it's the same with our relationship with food or money or whatever it is.
I just love everything about this conversation. Uh, you know what I love? Like, this was huge. The fact that you said that you were humbled, realizing that it was you, versus pointing a finger at you, blaming yourself, guilt tripping, being in that energy, which is very normal. How do you shift? Or maybe you always were humble. Like, but how does a person shift, like from pointing fingers to feeling humble about this?
Yeah, I let my ego lead the charge for many years, where it was like if something went wrong, I was angry about it, and then I told myself a whole story about how I sucked, and
Mm.
that was about love, that was about money, that was about body. Those were my three areas, um, and what I have come to realize is my ego does not belong anywhere near my like any of this. What we're here to do and why we're works in progress is because if we choose not to learn the lesson because ego would be hurt, then we're gonna have to repeat that lesson over and over. Um, if you humble yourself to go, I didn't know that. I've learned something. I'm gonna integrate that and make a different choice next time. Then you don't have to repeat the lesson. So humility, I think, is the greatest gift you can give yourself because you don't have to be bad or wrong and you get to learn quickly.
Yeah, that's so huge. It's a matter of being soft with yourself. Oh, I didn't know any better. Now I know better, so I will do better. That's
Yeah,
awesome, right? And
yeah. I mean, it's so freeing because it allows us to make mistakes that we're gonna make because we're human beings and human beings have free will, which means we make some bad choices sometimes.
right, and forgiving yourself through that,
Yeah.
huge. You
Well,
know, I feel like you've mentioned something that I would love to highlight, which is the self-sabotage piece when it comes to receiving that what we want. So I've worked with a lot of clients where they manifest their man, right? And they're like, oh, this happened really quickly. This is a lot for me to be in. And then they start to do certain things to push the man away or to go back to their default without really
yeah.
realizing this. Could you talk a little bit about like what have you noticed, like the psychology behind it? Like why would a person do that and really start to shift to open up and receive it more?
Because vulnerability is scary. I mean, that's the bottom line. Being vulnerable means you can get hurt. It means that you need to be available, not just on your timeline, but emotionally available at all moments. Um, it means that you can really you're risking big, and with risking big, and by risking big I mean being vulnerable, you open yourself up to disappointment. And when we've been disappointed in the past, and I'm thinking specifically in the category of love right now, when we've been disappointed in the past, sometimes it's easier to be hopeless than hopeful.
Mm, right, I hear that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And the other thing, and I'm so reminded of this, she's not even a client, she's a friend. And she said for so long she wanted love and she really wanted good love. And she would say to me, I want to meet someone like your husband. And so she was really manifesting. And I'm thinking of two instances specifically. The first one, I love this story. My husband's name is Lewis. And she said to me one day over lunch, I have to tell you something. I have been praying for 6 months for God to send me my Lewis.
Oh.
Like, she's like, I just love what you guys have together, and I don't know anyone else because all her other friends are in kind of messed up marriages, and not leaving. So, like, they're perpetuating what's happening. So she said, and I don't mean to be too literal, but I have a date with a guy I met online, and his name's Lewis. And so she got into a relationship with this great guy named Lewis. Now, they weren't lifelong partners, but she had a beautiful relationship with him because she got clear about what she wanted and she asked for it. She wanted someone, and she happened to say, I want my Lewis. She also wanted someone who was intelligent and thoughtful, and she got a lot of that. And that was a beautiful healing relationship for her and taught her how she could manifest. Now,
Mm.
after that relationship ended, ended and she'd taken some time to lick her wounds and heal herself, she met someone else online, and I don't think I ever knew his name, but she told me the story, and a mutual friend was really good friends with this guy. So I've heard the story from two sources, my friend and then my friend who was friends with the guy. So this guy was great. He was emotionally available. He was interested. He really pursued her. He was demonstrative. All the things that she had told me that she wanted. But because of her own beliefs, you know, she lives in Los Angeles. She's a plus-size girl, has a lot of body discomfort. His whole demonstrative piece in public really made her uncomfortable because she thought, I don't want anyone looking at us and thinking, get your hands off that unattractive woman. Like, that's literally what went through her head, which broke my heart. And ultimately, that relationship ended because when he would go to be demonstrative, she would shut down and say, please don't touch me. Well, what kind of message is that for him? You know? And so she was perpetuating an unhealthy belief. Even though she said she wanted this, she wasn't ready for it. And, you know, a year later, like my girlfriend who knew the guy and I never talked about it, a year later we happened to be out for dinner, we exchanged notes, and she said, gosh, that's exactly what he said about her, was that she couldn't receive. And he had been working so hard on being there to give. And I thought, this was a missed opportunity for my friend based on where she was at that time and her ability to really receive what she was asking for. So I love sharing those two stories because this was someone who, even with her limiting beliefs, could manifest, but it was really a question for her of, I don't know if I'm open enough to receive as much as I say I want.
Right. And that's huge, you know, Lisa, that's really huge because a lot of the times what I see, it's very interesting how this happens. We might get into this world of self-development and we be like, oh yeah, like I know this tapping sequence, I know this healing sequence, I follow this coach, I do all these different things. And you start to absorb things at the level of the mind. It's just like, you know, words. It's like, oh yeah, I know all about it. Oh yeah, I know. If you're not really experiencing it, you're not really 100% receiving it, right? Full on in your body. How can a person really receive what they're hearing from you today, like at the level of their heart, versus just here? Because when it just lands here, it's like, oh yeah, but how can a person really receive it here?
Oh, I love this question. The key for anyone watching and listening is, what if you could fully receive it? What if you allowed yourself to fully receive it? What if, rather than processing it through your brain and saying, that's nice, and going back to the exact behaviors and patterns and thoughts you've had leading up to this moment, what if you walked away from this conversation and put your hand over your heart and said, I honor this and I'm going to live it, as scary as it is, and say it out loud, because even as I'm holding my hand over my heart and speaking out loud, I'm feeling the vibration of that. And this is where it gets a little woo-woo, but I really believe that when we create a vibration with our voice, that's when we bring it into reality. It wasn't when I was in my headspace going, where's Mr. Right? Like, that energy was so squelchy. And I wasn't even saying it out loud. It was all up here. And it was the minute I started every day going, oh my God, love is available and abundant and here for me and wants me and will reciprocate and be an equal and support me as I support them and give at the level I give. I mean, I felt it differently because it was now alive in my body. This is as woo-woo as it can sound, creating the experience for ourselves in our body with the vibration of our voice and holding our heart, or, you know, I do a lot of, like, you know, holding my belly, wherever you need to hold yourself as you name it and claim it. That is how you bring it into reality. And it can feel fake and phony and crappy in the beginning. And the more you do it, it's going to feel really good.
I love that. I'm all about the woo-woo and the science, right?
Practical and you know, woo woo woo.
And I think that's crucial, you know, because sometimes we just want to manifest, like the next level of us only wants to operate here, and that's a trap. Like, in my opinion, that's like one of the worst like traps there is, because you're not just your thoughts. There's the body, there are your emotions, right? Like, there's like energy is energy and it's manifested in your body. It's not just here. If you're believing that everything has to be logical, it's very difficult to just access love from that state. There's a lot of stuff going on here.
I'm reminded as you say that of why I said yes to being on this summit, because I get invited to do a lot of summits, and typically people are cutting and pasting a template that their coach sent them to send people for a summit, and it's so impersonal. You showed up in my email inbox with a different energy, with a different intention, with a different presence. And what resonated for me is that it wasn't coming from here, it was coming from here, it was coming from whole body. And so it was really easy for me to have an energetic whole body yes, because I was like, she gets it. Like, I am in.
Yeah. Thank you. And you know what? I feel like this would be really huge for the audience to know here is the fact that it was easier for you to really get to that energetic yes, like in your body, because I was being that, and that's what when people get to feel that energy, people are always inspired, right? They get to remove themselves just from this area and be like, oh wow, I can be happy. Like life is not as stressful as it everybody's telling me that it is, and I can just like relax and just allow myself to receive things. Because once we it's very easy, it's just very easy to think that just because life has been this way, it's going to stay that way.
The only way.
Right.
That's so important. I will tell you, that is, if people take away nothing else, what you just said is so crucial. Just because it's always been this way doesn't mean it can't change in an instant. I used to be the girl who needed a paycheck every 2 weeks. I used to be the girl that like watched other people get married and have babies. I used to be the girl that like really believed that happiness and success was happening for others, and I just needed to take the crumbs. I used to be that girl. Nothing changed except my decision that it could be different. That's all that changed. And then, of course, that's where the dream plus do, like the taking action regularly to bring this new life to reality. But it starts in that moment that you're saying, like, it can be another way, and I'm willing to believe in that, connect to that, to trust that, and act accordingly.
I love that. And what I feel that translates to, because I'm going to be vulnerable with everyone here, is that all the work that I did, like self-development, like even to this day, like one of my core wounds has always been I don't deserve things, right? I don't deserve the good. So I've been like, I worked a lot on that, and I've like integrated, like, of course I deserve and deserve. And it's funny, every time that I up level, right, my next level, me, there's sometimes just a trace of a thought or like, do I deserve this? And it's like, of course you do. I don't respond negatively towards it or try to shut that voice down or anything like that, right?
It's real. It's not going to go away if you shut it down.
Right. So I've been able to grow and know like I deserve this, do the healing work, do everything and move forward and move forward. And life always meet you with that what you want or something even better.
Yes. And just because it doesn't happen on our timeline doesn't mean it's not working on our best behalf.
I love that. So do you have any insights around that could really help women know that they deserve that next level version of their lives, full on?
Well, first, your past does not define your future. So regardless of what shitty things happen to you, because they've all happened, something bad has happened to all of us. If we're leading an interesting, engaged life, that's just the truth. Like, we're all going to fall and get skinned and bruised and sometimes broken. So understanding that whatever poor parenting, whatever abuse, whatever neglect, whatever sadness, whatever disappointment, whatever perceived failure, whatever weight gain, whatever health crisis, whatever money crisis, like whatever, all of that happened and brought you here. It only defines you negatively if you let it. Every single rock bottom is really that opportunity to take a step towards your reinvention. So if you do nothing else, if you just honor that your past is really a story and you can change the perception of that story, I think that's going to really support women.
Yeah, 100%. You can shift the story, like you can change the meaning of it. That's huge. I hear you talk a lot about trust and surrender. And I know that trust is important because trust is all about being confident about your vision and moving forward before you see signs of it.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between trust and surrender? Like, how would you define both of them?
Oh, yes. Okay. So I want to talk about surrender first because this is such a hard concept. I think actually trust is easier, quite frankly. So, surrender. So first, let's talk about the opposite of surrender, which is struggle and strain and forcing and contracting.
Control.
Um, yeah, yeah. So, you know, life bumps up against us, and we bump up against life, and we can say I want love, or I want to lose weight, or I want to make more money, or whatever it is. And it's only when we surrender to the outcome and really just flow into the journey of it that we change our results. So if we're saying I want to lose 20 pounds by tomorrow, guess what? That's a lot of struggle and strain. It's not going to happen. If you surrender to, oh, how do I need to show up every day for the next 3 to 6 months to reach my goal, whether it's weight loss, finding love, making more money, paying off debt, whatever it is. We're in this life anyway. Like, you can struggle and strain your way through every day, or you can surrender and go, this is what I want, who do I need to be today, and let it flow from there. So that's surrender to me, is we can't control when, we can't control how. What we can have control over, and control is not my favorite word, but what we can have control over is how we feel in every moment about the journey that we're on.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, surrendering to knowing when or why or how. Like, it's so out of our control, and it's going to show up and be so much more elegant and graceful and delicious when we just don't even worry about that stuff. That stuff will work itself out.
I love how you're talking about who is it that I need to be, which is what this series is all about. Is okay, I just need to know how I'm going to show up every single day, and I know that's going to come in, that or even better. It's just who do I need to be?
Yes. And that's part of the trust thing is who do I need to be? I trust that I am good enough and I know enough and there's nothing outside of me that I need to bring in to be who I need to be today. So I want to find the love of my life. Well, who do I need to be? Who I need to be is radically self-loving. And by radical, I just mean really compassionate. I need to put myself out in the world every day and look up and make eye contact and smile with human beings rather than being engrossed in my phone thinking my next love of my life is on Tinder. Trust, like, and this is something I will ask. I'm going to get emotional. This is something I will ask every day until it's my last day. Who do I need to be to create the life that I want? Because the life that I want is here today already, but I'm always striving for more. I'm never satisfied. I'm satisfied every day, and I always want more. Like, I've made peace with that. I say every day, thank you, God, thank you, universe, and I'd like some more. So it's not that there's lack, but I'm also aware that I'm highly ambitious and I'm here to do big things. So I no longer apologize for that. And getting okay with that and understanding that every day I'm going to ask myself the same question. Who do I need to be today to be my best self, my highest self, and change the world in the ways that I can today?
I love that because what you just shared with us is about how to be ambitious from a space of love and abundance, right? I love and I'm grateful for everything that I have, and I always want to like expand and grow, which is the nature of this universe, right? Everything is growing.
It's human nature, yeah. I mean, we're going to get woo-woo again, but we're either expanding or contracting, and I'm not the human being who wants to maintain the status quo for 80 years the same as it was 30 years ago. Like, I want to, my next level is always informing what's next for me. When I get there, I'm like, and even on the journey, I'm like, woo, that's awesome. What's next?
Right.
I'm curious about what's next for each phase of my life, and I love that. I wouldn't change that for anything. Does it mean it's always comfortable? Hell no. I am often uncomfortable.
Can you talk about that? Like that, well, it's not uncertainty, but at first you're like moving through kind of like a valley. Like, okay, I have this desire. Like, for the women in this audience, I really want to call in the love of my life, or I really just want to like, be that confident, like feminine woman. And just like, how do I start to do that? Like, what if I just want to express my desires like in front of someone? Like, what are they going to think of me? Like, how does a person really start to navigate that process and go through that uncomfortable piece of it?
Yeah. Well, anytime we choose to evolve or become a better version of ourselves, we're pushing our comfort zone. So that can be incredibly uncomfortable when you manifest the love you say you want and desire, and it shows up for the first time. It's going to be uncomfortable. When you move in together, it's going to be uncomfortable. Like there's this growing edge. And I mean, I laugh about it now, but it's so true. When I was single, I had so much freedom, and I'm so thankful that there was a part of me who really celebrated that freedom because I knew it was temporary. But there was also a part of me that felt like all this freedom of time, of money, of energy, um, it felt like a burden almost because I knew that I'm ultimately here to share my life with somebody, and the person that I wanted to share it with hadn't shown up yet. Um, so then when I met him and he was so available and he let me in so fully and he said, I love you so easily. And I'd never experienced that before. I was like, well, this is uncomfortable. And then I was like, but wait, I asked for this and it feels good if I allow myself to receive it. So let me get comfortable with this new uncomfortableness. And then, I told him I never want to get married or have babies. I just want a really healthy, happy relationship. And then we decided to get married. So suddenly I was like, I'm going to like legally be bound to somebody. I'm uncomfortable, and so regardless of what it is, it's this growing edge of evolution that's uncomfortable. And I'll tell you, the discomfort is worth it. I, I know people who, and no judgment. So I want to be clear, no judgment. I have a girlfriend who is very comfortable being vulnerable with her pets. So she loves them up. They are the most loved and spoiled and lucky and amazing pets. Like, they are lucky that they were rescued by her because
Yeah.
she gives, like they go to acupuncture. Her dogs and cats go to acupuncture. Like, they get they have groomers who come to the house. They don't have to leave, like, it's insane. It's also, and that's beautiful and that fulfills her. However, I also intuitively understand that for her, it's only safe at this point in her life to give that openly to something that won't talk back, leave her, or hurt her. And my wish for her is that one day she'll be okay with loving a human in the way she gives love to her animals, because I know for me that receiving love from a human being who may leave but will stay, who may hurt but chooses not to, that is such an extraordinary experience, and I don't want her to miss out on that.
Hmm. Thank you so much for sharing that, because this is such an interesting topic. I've spoken with, several women, and this used to be me big time. I know that I identified with, I wanted to create an amazing family. I wanted to experience epic love. And that was like my main like drive. I knew that, well, I didn't want to repeat like my family's, like my mom and my dad's marriage and all these different things. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then there was a moment in my life where I realized that my life was very lonely. Like, I realized that I had closed myself off from even friends. Like, on a superficial level, everybody loved me. Everybody loved my energy. I was like, when I would connect with people, it would be awesome. But I was so scared of deeper intimacy. So scared of moving in forward and actually being seen, right? And I see this all the time. I see a lot of women who, energy attracts the same sort of energy. So I see it all the time where a lot of women are super comfortable loving everything up, like you said, right? And for some reason, they're like, when it comes to a man or to their partner, to really call him in, they're like, but he might hurt me, right? And it's like, so what if a family member hurt you and then they apologized, right? Not talking about like, abusive situations or anything like that. Like, you would be open to really work it out, right? Like, why is it so different when it comes to a man, or to really create a family, or to really move into that next stage of intimacy. So could you talk a little bit about that next level of, stage of intimacy, and how can a person really move into that?
Well, you've said so much that's really resonating for me because I used to be that person too. I was really comfortable if you were going to treat me like shit because I knew what that felt like.
Right.
I wasn't so comfortable receiving healthy, happy love that actually made my life better and made me want to be a better person. That was too unsafe for me because I hadn't witnessed that growing up. Um, and I mean, this is just another choice. And the more, and so here's where I feel like women can do themselves a service rather than a disservice. If you can create that kind of deep, loving relationship with yourself, like, and I mean for real, I mean like you are really self-aware and you are doing your personal development work and you are connected to your emotions and your fears, and you're not letting your fears run the show. You're facing them and you're finding ways to move through them. It's not about silencing the inner critic. It's about hearing the inner critic and saying, I lovingly disagree. Like, really finding a way to give yourself that kind of love and compassion and kindness. It makes it so much easier to receive in the rest of the world. I know when I'm judging myself big time, and I don't see it when I judge myself, but then I listen to my thoughts about other people and I'm like, oh, check yourself. Where are you really judging yourself right now? Because this isn't even about them. This is about something I'm feeling about myself. I don't love those moments. They are some of my full out, which means I have to feel full out, which means I'm often uncomfortable. There we are, back again here. I'm okay with that. I know that I can withstand, as can all of you, that discomfort. It's not going to break me. I can move through it. I can breathe through it. I can do whatever practice or mantra or process I need to do to get to the other side of it. But I will be shortchanged if I don't feel it as I move through it.
I love that. I really, I just, I connect with that because it's about, I love what you said about like with the inner critic, like lovingly disagreeing and moving forward, right? Because sometimes,
That's a game changer. That's for everyone. Lovingly, learn to lovingly disagree.
and not be identified by it, because that's the part of it. That's where we break that step, because when we move into that, the correlation between the inner critic and the judgment, like when we can be really judgmental towards ourselves, towards other people, and we start to shut down. And the best way that I say it is like when you're noticing that you're being judgmental with someone, just notice it. Whenever you sense that somebody's judging you, you tend to shut down. Like you don't even want to hear what they're saying, right? So when you're judging yourself, you're going to tend to repeat even like the same behavior over and over again. Can you develop a more loving relationship with yourself that is going to allow you to get to that next level, right? Huge.
I love that. That is everything, because if we can get right with ourselves and kind of maintain that inner fortitude, for lack of a better term, like that really just, if we can create peace and love and harmony within ourselves as often as possible and then course correct when we get out of that, it just changes our experience in the world. We're no longer victims. We're no longer shaming and blaming ourselves or others. We're no longer in judgment. We're no longer shutting down out of fear. I mean, that's really what we're talking about, is getting right with yourself.
Great. This is amazing. I know, right? I feel you and I hear you so much. One thing that came up with me, a question, I almost forgot that I wanted to ask you this, but intuitively I keep hearing the same message. So you talk about the way of being. I know that you've worked with a lot of clients, like through your own journey and everything. Are there specific ways of being that you've seen that allow a woman to really transform and to get to her next level that you could share with us?
Yes. Um, First of all, creating space. Like, and I mean, don't be overly busy because it's too hard to be silent.
Mm, I hear that.
Yeah, hear yourself, be with yourself, as often uncomfortable as that might be. Um, and then, oh God, the other piece just totally flew out of my brain. It might come back, but so that tells me that the piece is really about being. Oh, I know what it is. Along with being with yourself, there's this in. So this is how I'm gonna say it. What like in check in with yourself regularly. I'm letting go of fill in the blank to make room for fill in the blank. And so this is, I am letting go of self-sabotage to make room for love, success, whatever it is. I am letting go of the need to apologize to make room for, and again, it's whatever it wants to be for you. But naming and claiming, again, hand over heart really helps. Like naming and claiming what you're done with. Like declare it to the universe, to God, to a friend, and then declare what you're replacing it with. We're powerful manifestors, so let's get really clear and specific.
Yeah, and then take action. As soon as you say, I'm letting go of this and, I'm accepting this, move into it right up there in the spot.
Yes.
Huge. So I think I wanted to ask you like one last question, which is, what makes a delicious woman in your own experience?
Oh, a delicious woman. What? Ooh, I'm going to just kind of marinate on that for a minute. That feels good. A delicious woman is someone who knows herself deeply and isn't afraid to be vulnerable and shows up and celebrates herself in the world and receives exactly what she asked for.
I love that. It's like I have a smile like this size, right? It's amazing. It's amazing learning to celebrate yourself full on. I really love that, Lisa, and I just absolutely love the conversation that we had today, and I'm sure that the audience is, getting a lot from it and enjoying it too. So thank you so much for being part of this series, for bringing like your light, your wisdom, everything. And I know that you have a gift for the audience as well, so we would love to know more about your gift.
Yes, and first of all, thank you so much. This was such a pleasure, as I knew it would be. I was eagerly anticipating this conversation. I just love who you are and how you show up in the world. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You too.
And then in terms of the free gift, I am really passionate about taking the intangible and making it tangible. So I have an audio program. It's called 20 Days and 20 Ways to Turn Your Life On. And it's a very simple to follow audio program that walks you step by step through actions you can take on a daily basis that will help you integrate and implement some of the stuff we've talked about today.
I love that. I'm sure that a lot of ladies are going to be like, yep, this is the next step. Definitely. So thank you so much, Lisa, once again. And I hope that everyone enjoyed this interview. And I'm just so grateful for this interview and to getting to know you. And I am going to see everyone on the next day. So thank you so much, Lisa. And talk to you soon.